I have been at the front lines of this movement for a long time, and I've seen us take loss after loss after loss. And so I wrote this book because I think, for the most part, conservatives haven't understood that they're in this battle. And you're not going to win a battle, much less a war, if you don't know you're in a war. And so I think it's very, very important for conservatives to understand the past, because if you don't understand the past, you're not going to know how to chart the future. So we've had, as a movement, in my opinion, our political guns pointed at the wrong target. We've been focused on the Democrats, Pelosi, Reid, Obama, and that has been a mistake, quite frankly, because the real opponent of conservatives is inside the Republican Party. We are like the biblical Jews who had to wander through the desert for 40 years until that generation of failed, flawed leaders had passed from the scene. And we're not going to get to the political promised land until we get new leaders, okay? The media and the big government Republicans have done a good job of blaming us conservatives, principled conservatives, limited government conservatives, Tea Partiers for their losses. But the opposite is the truth. The voters in 2006, 2008, took the Congress and the White House away from the Republicans. In my opinion, having nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Harry Reid, had everything to do with the failed, immoral, in my opinion, corrupt leadership of the big government Republicans. People just don't like them. And when they are the face of the opposition to the Democrats, Republicans seldom win. There have been four big Republican victories in my lifetime, and that's a long time, but only four. And in those four, the face of the opposition to the Democrats was conservatives, limited government conservatives. 1980 under Reagan, 1984, Reagan's reelection, 1994, contract with America, the Gingrich Revolution, 2010 under the leadership of the Tea Party. In 2010, the Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Karl Rove, Bush, none of them are to be seen in this election. What people see is Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, Levin, the Tea Party, Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Marco Rubio. They liked that and gave the Republicans their biggest victory in 75, 80 years, okay? So if we want to win in the future, we're going to have to make sure that we keep some advice in mind. And I get my advice by paraphrasing James Carville. Remember 1992, Carville said ad nauseum over and over. We were tired of hearing him say, "Is the economy stupid? Is the economy stupid?" Well, I paraphrase that and say to conservatives, it's the primary stupid, it's the primary stupid. Because we can see, as conservatives, this wave coming. And it could be a wave of tsunami proportions that's going to drive the Democrats, many of them, out of office this fall. And if all it does is bring in more big government, establishment Republicans, we will have wasted the opportunity of a lifetime. And in my opinion, it is entirely possible, if we focus on taking back the Republican Party from the big government Republicans, we can do that by 2016, and 2017 actually be governing America. You know, this war started actually 102 years ago. A lot of people think maybe it started with the Tea Party movement in 2009, 2010, or maybe in the Gingrich Revolution of 94, or certainly by 1980. When Reagan was nominated and elected. No, it started literally 102 years ago when Teddy Roosevelt failed to get the Republican nomination for president, went across the street, in essence, started the Boo Moose Party, and split the Republican vote, allowing Woodrow Wilson, a very progressive Democrat, to become president of the United States with less than 42% of the vote. So we've been fighting that wing of the party ever since. And sometimes our opponents look like Teddy Roosevelt, sometimes Alf Landon, sometimes Tom Dewey or Nixon or Ford or Bob Dole or John McCain or Mitt Romney. But and today it's John Boehner, Eric Cantor, Mitch McConnell, Lamar Alexander. We're fighting that wing of the party. And as I said earlier, the voters reject them. And only when the face of the opposition to the Democrats is a limited government, constitutional conservatives, do we score big victories. I remember back in the 50s when I got involved in politics. I was Harris County Young Republican chairman in the late 50s. And in those days, the conservative movement rested on just a two-legged stool. National defense, which really meant anti-communism, and economic issues, lower taxes, balanced budget, less government. And that was a two-legged stool, and we'd get 40, sometimes 45, maybe 47%. Very seldom did we get 51%. But only in the late 70s, under the leadership of Paul Weyrich, of Jerry Falwell, Ronald Reagan, they reached out and brought social conservatives into the conservative movement. Now we're sitting on a three-legged stool, and that changed everything. We begin to get 51, 52, 53% of the vote. We're not governing America, but we're winning. And a two-legged stool, as we know, is not very sturdy, and so that's why we seldom won. So now we're winning, but we're not governing America. And in my opinion, in recent years, there's been a fourth leg of that stool that's been added, and that fourth leg is the Tea Party. Reagan, in 1976, when he ran for president, had a wonderful phrase. I just love this phrase. He ran against the entire Republican establishment, remember, against the Rockefeller wing of the party. Rockefeller was vice president in 1976. Ran against the Ford wing, the Nixon wing, okay, of the party. And he said, we need new leadership unfettered by old ties and old relationships. The Tea Party is unfettered by old ties and old relationships. And so I think if we welcome the Tea Party in with these other groups that Reagan launched us on in the late 70s, early 80s, we've got a very, very strong and winning coalition. I am more optimistic than I've ever been in my life. For 50 years that I've been involved in politics at the national level, the conservative movement at the national level, people periodically ask me, Richard, is it too late? Have we gone too far down the road to socialism? Can we really turn things around at this late hour? And I've always had one answer and one answer only, whether that was 1970s or the 90s or recently. And that one answer was, we can turn things around. We can save America, providing one thing happens, and that is if things get real bad, real quick. Guess what? We're there. That water is boiling thanks to Obama, and the American people are jumping out of that as fast as they can. I say to people once, twice, 3 times a day, Obama's going to do something to anger you, frustrate you, upset, and I understand it. That happens to me too. That's okay. Take 30, max 40 seconds. Throw something, get upset, whatever. Then get down on your knees and thank God that he's President of the United States, because I know no other way to save America. We're going to have some great victories in the coming years because of 2 things. One, the arrival of Barack Obama, and almost simultaneously the arrival of the Tea Party that has brought so much new energy and leadership to our cause here. So be encouraged, conservatives. Some of us here, Morton Blackwell and others here, were there when, after 1964 defeat of Goldwater, after Nixon's resignation in 1974, with Jimmy Carter's election in 1976, when there was a darkness of biblical proportions. I mean, it was tough. As tough as it is now, we have things going for us now. We didn't have Jim DeMint then. We didn't have Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and all of these wonderful governors, Mike Pence and Scott Walker. We didn't have all of them, okay? We didn't have talk radio. We didn't have cable television. We didn't have the internet. We have so much going for us now that we didn't have, but we persevered, and conservatives, we are close to prevailing. So I think that in 2016, conservatives, if you remember, it's the primaries, stupid. It's the primaries. And if we do that, we can score big victories in 2014, in 2016. We can nominate and elect a principled, limited government, constitutional conservative to be the Republican nominee, and elect that person in November and be governing America by 2017. Read the book, understand the problem, where we've been, where we are now, and how we go forward. And we've got a website called conservativehq.com that is focused entirely on building and relaunching the conservative movement. So thank you very much. Appreciate being here today.